Congratulations on your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I thought about you immediately.
Let me tell you something. When I heard the news, I said, first, well, I had a couple of thoughts. First of all, I was like, yes, yes. My second thought was, it's about damn time. You
That's what I said. No,
know? No,
I think
listen.
it was that was in the works for a while, but the pandemic and everything hit, so that kind of pushed things back.
Yeah. Well, I know just being, a sister in this thing. I know how hard the road has been. I know how sometimes it can feel like you're screaming in the dark. And then to have such an amazing opportunity to host your own show. Because I don't know about you. I mean, when you've been doing this for a long time, sometimes it feels like this shit ain't gonna never happen.
I was told specifically like to leave you alone. Like don't go.
What? Are you serious? Ah!
You know who told me that? He was
I
like,
do.
"Do
I
not."
do.
Yeah.
Well, but you know what? Here's the thing though. It's so funny. I feel like, well, it's a couple of things. First of all, I like to start off by telling everyone that the reason I do this, it started out as um just a passion project for me to not just celebrate women during Women's History Month, but really kind of bring it down to where for me it was touchable, it was tangible, it was something that it would give me the opportunity to talk to people that I've known throughout my career, people that I've crossed paths with, people that I think fucking rock. And you were on my list almost immediately between you, Dee Dee McGuire, a couple of other people that I know, Sybil, that you've been in this game, you know how difficult it is. And I thought, I really want to talk to her. And what's interesting is, although it's been in the works for a long time, I did not hear the news until after I had decided to do this. So then when
Right.
I saw the news break and I saw all the shit that was popping, I was like, oh man, I hope she doesn't think that I'm trying to bring her in to kind of bait her to talk about, the elephant in the room. But really, it was a celebration, just literally woman to woman.
No, and I don't even look at you that way at all. So, that's fine. Like it's just been a whirlwind for me, but I am happy about it. I think that I don't know any woman in our field who doesn't have a story, about
Yes.
just how difficult it's been to even get to where we are. And I know that's why the show is called Way Up, because while I feel like I'm way up, I also know that I'm still on the way up. And so there's a lot more that I want to be able to accomplish. And even now, like doing a new show is not like all glitz and glamour at all. I'm still having to actually do a lot more myself now, but it hits
Hmm.
different when it's like for you and it's for yourself. So it feels good, but at the same time, it's like exhausting, but it's
No,
a
I
good
get it.
exhaustion.
No, I can imagine. And the other thing too, I want to just really clear up, and we don't have to go into great detail about it, but I would feel remiss if I didn't at least tell you how I felt about the controversy. Like for me, and you and I have had this conversation before. I totally understood. As soon as you said it, first of all, I was so happy that somebody gave life to those words that we feel. But I felt instantly irritated that people took it the wrong way because I knew exactly what the sentiment behind it. I knew the feeling. It is not an easy thing to sit
Yeah.
in a room being, and I knew what you meant when you said the only female, because I'm also in that position where it's not two other people, it's just one person, but still being the only female. It doesn't mean I'm the only one working on the show, but
Right.
I'm the only one who is visible and out front, and I'm the one with the microphone, and I'm the one whose camera, is always, there's always a camera there, or my words are always under a microscope. And so I got it, but I would love to hear from you, not necessarily about that situation, but just in general, the complexities that some people kind of brush off as just being simply a co-host or one of the hosts. Just how difficult it is just being a woman in that position.
Yeah, I think what people don't didn't understand was I'm just talking about in that room. I don't mean in the company. I don't mean that worked on the show, but it's like working in a kitchen, right, at a restaurant. And of course, there's a whole staff that works outside of the kitchen, but in the actual kitchen, that's what it was like. So yes, there's people that are the host and the servers, and and they other people that have a lot to do with it. But as far as conversations that are happening, daily, somebody might not be in there. Their job might be to be in a different room editing, because they can't edit while you're on the air.
Right.
So there's definitely people who had roles, but nobody that had to sit there. And I think if it was the reverse, being the only guy in a room full of women, that I'm sure would be difficult for anybody, being the only anything that's representing, because sometimes people don't look at things from your point of view. And I'm not saying intentionally people don't do that, but it just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so, to me, but the way I look at it, like, I'll be damned if I let somebody tell me that my experience wasn't my experience. Like,
That part.
I mean, it is what it is. It's what
But that's
happened.
right.
I can't, no way, you're not going to make me say, well, actually, I was there and it didn't happen. Like, it's,
Yeah. Well,
you
for
know,
12 years. I mean, that's a long time and I think unfairly sometimes people think because of what they hear and maybe how something is edited, what they see, sometimes they don't understand that there are breaks in between. And that's really when real life and the real shit hits the fan, is in between the breaks. And you still gotta somehow pull it together, whether things are great or funny or hot and irritated. You still have to bring it together then so that you can deliver a great show. And it's not always easy. And I think sometimes people don't understand the weight that you carry sometimes when you are the only female and trying to make sure that you keep the train on the tracks.
yeah. And listen, I think that nobody understands it more than me and you and other people in our position, other women in our position. Because I'm not going to lie, I've had that conversation with so many different women in radio. Like, I have to tell you, so many, no matter what genre it is, not
Yes.
just black men, not, I mean, when I tell you, it's like, kind of what it is. And so I'm always a long game person. So to me, I'm not like a rash, I'm gonna just get up and, like, I'm always thinking ahead and trying to figure out, like, what is the best way for me to handle a situation. And I'm like that with everything in my life. And so I've always known that at some point, even when I started on the Breakfast Club, I always knew at some point I was going to do my own show. That was always the plan for me. And so
Yeah.
I knew that this was something, I mean, who knew if the show was even going to work? I came from having my own show to being on a show, that was part of a trio. And in
Yeah.
my head, after, in the beginning, I had lip service and I did my podcast. So I always knew at some point I would be doing my own thing again. I just didn't know when it would be. And it's not something that I wasn't vocal about. I had been talking about it at iHeart for quite some time, and we're under contract. So I knew when my contract was up, that's when it would be time to figure it out. And initially, the idea was for me to stay on the Breakfast Club and start my own show. And it would be like a nighttime show. Maybe it would only be like on the weekends, or, 3 days, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We were just trying to figure it out. And then it turned out that they said, you know what, let's do this. You don't have to stay on the Breakfast Club. Let's do your own show 5 days a week from 10 to 2 right after the Breakfast Club. And I was ecstatic about that, because I was prepared to have to do both, because I'm always like, I know what my work ethic is. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to rock it out for both and get myself in a position where my own show does well enough that they're like, okay, let's just let you focus on that. Even if I had to do that for a couple of years, I was prepared to just, buckle down and make it happen. And fortunately, I didn't have to, because that would have been so much work.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting how I think most people, when they are on the outside looking in, it looks like it's all glitz and glamour and you'd really, it's a lot
Yeah,
of
you see
fun.
the
You're going to
shoes, you see the
yeah,
shoes.
you at all the party. But it's truly a lot of work, and you really have to have a passion for it. I think you have to have a sense of security and self-esteem about it. And I think you also have to have that nothing will stop me kind of attitude, because, you know, and I think you can say this on both sides. I think when you're in a time during which, you're competing with um, the internet and social media, and you're still trying to get people to rock out on what could be considered archaic, terrestrial radio, and you're like, damn. And so I feel like it's long overdue. I think it is unfortunate, I will say. And I've just like you, I've had this conversation many times with a lot of different people about the difficulties of being a female in this industry. And it's 2023 heading into 2024, and you can still count on your fingers, on one hand, the number of women who are leading their own either morning show or afternoon show, or who don't have to have a co-host, if you know what I mean. So, but I will say the thing that I really admire about you, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on and talk to you, really wasn't just about radio. It was just how I've watched you over the years pivot and create other lanes for yourself. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of women that I've seen, have not had the ability or really the foresight to think about doing that. And so when I consider, your juice bar, and then, you came with the coffee, and then you came with the wigs, and then you came with the real estate, I was like, yo, Angela, leave something for me. But what made you decide? Was it really because you thought, I because honestly, I always thought, this is going to sound so terrible, but it is just the truth. And I believe in being honest in this tree of trust. I used to say, I don't want to be in my 50s doing, middays. I don't want to be in my
Right.
50s just being in a local station, racking up speakers and doing remotes and shit. And so I was like, I always have to have an end game. So is that what your thought process was about, creating other avenues for yourself?
I think that this is something for me growing up the way that I grew up. I never ever have wanted to rely on one thing. And
Mm.
so I never wanted to feel like if God forbid something should happen, because we know also in our business, anything could happen. Something
Woo!
could go wrong. An advertiser could get mad at you, a person could get mad at you, and next thing you know, bang, you're out of a job. Somebody could not like you. It could be layoffs, it could be anything. And so I never wanted to feel like this is all I can do. Man, now I'm stuck. And so I think it's important for any of us to feel like, okay, I'm always financially going to be okay. So I can make decisions that are not based on me having to pay my mortgage. That's
Yeah.
really how I look at it. And so, and it took me a while to get to that mindset. It's not something that I grew up with, but I think what really did it, the confidence that I had after getting my first house, a two-family brownstone, and then feeling like, okay, paid off the house, in a few years, and then opened a business. And then I think sometimes you just have to do it to experience it, but
Mm.
do it in the smartest way possible. Like opening a business, having a business plan, making sure that you have the support that you need, whether it's a business partner or whether it's, hiring the right staff or giving somebody equity that can really be beneficial to you, somebody who has experience, having a great mentor, any one of those things that can help you make sure that you're prepared for it. Because I also feel like one of my hacks is that even just owning a business makes you more money, even if it's not the actual business itself, right? So it could be that, okay, I have this business. Well, before I even started making money on my business, I was getting booked, to talk about the fact that I have a business. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
sometimes doing things like that really does attract money. So I would make more money from sponsors, from speaking engagements, from people who would actually pay me to talk about what it took to start a small business, and than I was making from my actual business. And so I just think that those are things people have to take into consideration, because I'm the type of person who's always trying to figure out how to monetize something. Like I was just in Vegas for National Association of Broadcasters. And I'm walking and I'm looking around at night at all the people like barefoot and all the people struggling in their heels. And I'm like, shoot, I walk up and down here and sell flip flops. Like that's how I, like, everything that I look at, I'm like, how can I monetize this? Like I'm always trying to figure out a way, to make that happen. And that's just kind of like the mindset, that I have. And so it's important to make sure that we never feel stuck, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of us do, and there's been periods of my life where I did feel like, okay, I can't leave this situation because if not, I can't pay my bills. And
Yeah.
I've lived check to check and I know what that's like. And I don't want to have to do that again.
It's so funny that you talk about how life can be in a particular way and you can feel stuck. I think especially as women, but just most people in general, I think you can go through a period where you can feel stuck. And I think a lot of people from, you know, goodness, I started this doing this shoot in the 90s, like 1990. And I look at how, from a different perspective, radio in many ways is set up that it can be very lonely, right? And so
Mhm.
if you don't create other avenues for yourself, you can literally go crazy because think about it, right? Logically, step it out. You're in a room by yourself for at least 4 hours a day, literally talking. I get it. You're
Right.
talking to thousands or millions of people, but really, it's just you and the music. And obviously, when it comes to syndication, now it's just you and your thoughts and whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, if because you're most people, I mean, do you do it in real time? Maybe not. But the point is, and then when you leave, I think I don't know about you, but a lot of people that I've spoken to have said the same thing. Sometimes it can be very lonely. You feel like you're on an island by yourself because when you're having these kinds of thoughts of, well, if I don't do this and if I'm no longer a radio personality, what am I?
Right.
And will there still be a value assigned to me after having given so much of my life to this? Because we know how it is. Sometimes from back in the day, you go do your show, you got to come in an hour or so early to do production, then you got to stay after to go do an air check session. Then if you have a remote, you're filling the van, you're doing just the whole thing. You could literally spend more than half the day and have nothing left for yourself when you come home at night. And so if and then, like you said earlier, you can come back the next day and they done changed the format on your ass. You're like,
Right.
wait. So, I mean, I think trying to keep not only the passion, but a system of self-love in place. How do
Right.
you find the balance for that? I know what worked for me, but what works for you?
Well, it was interesting. I talked to Sharon in Detroit, right? And she was telling me, and this was years ago, she was like, girl, take all your vacation days. Because at first I wasn't doing it. I was like, you start feeling like, look, I can't miss a day
That's
because,
right.
and yeah, you feel like that. But the truth is, you need that, right? You need to make sure that you take your days. Now with my new show, it's like super hectic. But I told my producer just last week, I'm like, listen, I need one day a week of you to not book interviews, like so that I'm not here until, from 8 in the morning until 5 o'clock. Cause I gotta do
Hmm.
personal things. Like I want to go to the dentist and get my teeth cleaned. Like I can't even do anything ever because those are like the times that I'm at work and there's no space for me outside of that. And sometimes people will really just like pile it on you, pile it on you. And it's okay for you to have to tell them, no, I can't do that. And so I really do make sure that I take charge of my schedule and let them know anything you want to book for me, run it by me first
Yeah.
because we don't know what's going on in my personal life. And Sharon told me, she was like, make sure you take time for yourself and take time for your personal life because you dedicate so much time to this. And a lot of people will be like, I don't have time to start a family. I don't have time, and I think women have that, and not even just in our field, but in general,
Yeah.
right? In order to be successful, you don't have time to get pregnant, time to have a family, time. And people look at you different too. They might say, well, she got a kid. I don't know. Is she going to be able to travel? Is she going to be able to do this? Is she going to be calling out? Is that going to take a priority? And people, you get scared because you're like, there's so many people waiting to take your spot that you feel like I can't make those sacrifices because it's a choice that you make. But and I think that a lot of us are guilty of that. Like I know a lot of people who are, but it is really up to us, right? To say, okay, and you can't even do that in the beginning. You really can't do that until you have some
Right.
leverage, right?
Correct.
And
Right.
but part of having that leverage is, at work, I make sure that with our sales team at work, I'm always like, all right, what do you guys need me to do? You need me to hop on this Zoom? Do you want me to meet these clients, these potential clients? Do I need to do a video? And because at the end of the day, they really do care about like bringing in, the money that
Of
really
course.
matters for you. Yeah. So bottom line is that when you're valuable in that way because you know how to work within this system where it's not like I need y'all, but you guys need me too. It's
Yes.
a reciprocal thing, right? So like I said, part of what it is for me is building my brand outside of just being a radio personality so that you bring a lot of value to the table. So it's like Angela does real estate. Well, we have this situation with, not that this is true, but let's just say Home Depot. And, let's see if we can lock that in because she would be a perfect fit for that. And there's a lot of things that they bring to the table. Like I do Wealth Wednesdays. There's a lot of financial things where they might say, okay, we have an opportunity with this company, or, this finance company wants to work on this, or this credit card company, or this small business initiative is happening. And so all of those things, first things first, because I talk to our sales team and because they know me, they know I love going to a Broadway play. But they'll be like, okay, Angela, we have this guest coming on. Do you mind going to see MJ the musical? Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. And so I just try to make sure that I'm invaluable to them. And the other thing that I really do is, even outside of work, I feel like I pay attention to what's trending. I pay attention to what our listeners care about. And so that way I can also make sure I'm watching, like, if Beef is on Netflix and that's the most talked about show right now, I'm going to make sure that I watch it.
That you
And
watch it so
usually,
you know. Yeah.
yeah, usually it's talked about because it is enjoyable. Sometimes we don't really feel like it, but you can get into it. And so a lot of
It's
times, like
actually
what I'm
really
doing,
good. I watch I watch it. It's a really good it's a great really good
and
series.
like Love is Blind, I probably would not have just watched that on my own, but everyone was talking about it. So I'm like, shoot, let me, get into this. And then it is interesting. And then it does create like great topics for your show, but it's also relatable because people are like, oh yeah, I'm watching that too. I can't wait to hear what she has to say about that. It's just things like that that really matter, because sometimes I feel like people can feel that certain things are like beneath them, or, well, I don't care about that. Well, it's really not just about you, because what we do is more of like our service to our listeners too, right? So we always want to make sure that we are just like you, but we also have to take it up a notch in doing our research so that we're not giving you like bad
False
information.
information. Yeah. So you could be
Right.
like Dominion right now, having to, getting all that money from Fox, but we won't get into that. So let me ask you this:
Girl,
what? Isn't that crazy? I was happy about that. I was like, get them, take them for every dollar they got, everyone.
yes,
Okay. I
please.
don't want to hear nothing else about alternative facts. Here you go. Write the check. Thank you and good night. What is the biggest misconception about Angela Yee? What's the biggest misconception?
I think that sometimes people think that I like, they'll base what other people say and say, "Oh, Angela didn't say anything," but they don't really know, what happens. And I think, like, there'll be times I look at my timeline and some people will be like, "Oh, I can't stand Angela. She's such a feminist." Which, I mean, come on, that's not an insult to me. That's a compliment.
Yes.
But right, people will say that, but then the next person will be like, Angela doesn't stand up. It's just like, I think it depends on like what you watch, what clips you see, how much you pay attention. Or it'll be something like, on my new show, we have this segment, Tell Us a Secret, and we post those clips, and those clips really go crazy, right? Because people call in, there's no judgment, and they tell us a secret. And there's been like crazy things that people have said. One guy stole a car and he felt bad. He did it in the 90s and he felt bad and he wanted to like confess. And we're not judging you. So the other day, a woman called in and her husband cheated on her with 3 guys, and she ended up, getting revenge by sleeping with 20 guys in the course of,
Damn,
yeah.
20? How did
So
she fit?
it's,
I mean, how did she fit that in, literally and figuratively? Like, how did she fit that in? Damn, girl.
she was going to party, so it could have been like
I
orgies or who
mean,
knows.
who
But
knows?
But the point of the whole segment is we're not judging you. It's kind of like a confession, where you call in, you're anonymous, you get to just put it out there. We're not going to be like, oh, you're disgusting, you're this, you're that, right? And so I think like people will be like, oh my God, in the comments, Angela left the Breakfast Club for this. Like, you guys, we do Wealth Wednesdays, where we talk about financial empowerment. We've had some amazing interviews. Like, I also did a lot of things like highlighting women entrepreneurs every single day. And it's like, just because you only saw that one clip, you think that's what the whole show is about, but you're not paying attention or doing your research. And I think that's really hard because
But
you're
you know
like,
what?
guys, this
My thing is this though. My thing about that is, and I learned this a long time ago just from living. My thing is, I think that whatever I want to do, leave me the fuck alone. This is what I'm
right.
doing. It's working. Okay. And the thing that I admire about you, by the way, includes that. I think you are, I'm not going to say one of the few women because I don't want to sound disrespectful to other women because I know there's, a plethora of other women out there who are like this, but there is nothing better to me than a very well-rounded person, human being, not just a woman, but human being, but in this particular context, a woman specifically, because I think it's a good thing that you were able to
Mhm.
have an intelligent conversation about politics, about wealth, about religion, about money management, about sex, about, whatever your profession is. To me, that makes you a very well-rounded individual. So in my mind, when I hear or see people say things like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's being so raunchy," or "Why would she talk like that?" Well, why wouldn't she? Like, I mean,
Right.
to
And
me,
you know
like,
what
if
I
that's
said
your
to her?
life, you can speak on that, whether you're talking about sex and, or whether you're talking about money, like that. I mean, it is what it is.
I've started to go extra hard at making people mad. Because I think it's kind of funny too. Like when the woman did that, I was like, "Yes, girl, get it." Like whatever. Because I knew it was going to make people mad, and
Of
so like people were
course.
like, yeah. So to me, you're right though. Like I'm at a point now where I don't really
Girl.
care, and I think it's really funny when people get mad. And I also want certain people to not like me. I'm not trying to be liked by everybody. I think that a good judge of who you are as a person is also who doesn't like you. And there's certain
Yes.
people who I'm like, you don't like me, good, because I would be mad if you did.
Yes, yeah, it's true. But you know what I think it is too? I think, first of all, in this country, I think we're very pent up when it comes to sexuality and independence, especially for women. And I think when people see you and they see this baby face and your voice, and I think people expect you to act like you're 15 years old. I'm like, this is a whole grown ass woman. Like, what are you talking
Right.
about?
No,
Or
I'm
they
grown.
think if you wear certain shoes or you dress a particular way, oh, you shouldn't use such vulgarity. Bitch, I'll use whatever I want to. It's at my disposal. It's my mouth. It's my mind. And so I love the fact that even through criticism, vitriol, even at sometimes, that you still continue to forge your own path. I think that's what life is all about, because at the end of the day, when you lay down and close your eyes to open them no more, you will be known by how well you lived your life. Did you try to use every inch of your body, like every inch of your being? And so to me, that includes my experience throughout life, which is going to include some things that are going to make you uncomfortable. I'm all right with that.
Right.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I'm great with that.
Me too. I was
I'm
just reading the other
great
day.
with making other people uncomfortable, and I'm okay
Yes.
with being uncomfortable myself.
That's a word. That's a word right there. Being uncomfortable yourself. Because I think, to me, comfort is death. I think when you become comfortable and you sit still and become, sedentary and you don't move, I think that's death. I think you should move and do things that make you so uncomfortable that at times you feel like you're going to lose your breath. And if not, in my opinion, you're not really living. So I always do it. I go toe to toe sometimes with DL, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I'm going to hold his feet to the fire, and I might be
And
dead tomorrow.
love you for that. And DL is like,
Yes.
do not take Jasmine away from me.
Listen, I give it my all, and he knows it. Sometimes our conversations and arguments spill over outside of the studio. At the end of the day, it's still all love because he respects me. I respect him, but I let him know, okay, just because you talk louder does not mean you're right. Okay, you can
Right.
bring that level
And
down. That
you know what? And he shows you that he respects you, and he shows us,
Yeah,
that he
and I
respects you as
appreciate
well.
that. I mean, I really
Mhm.
do. But I think, for me, it's really about trying to connect with individuals that I think are on the same frequency as I am. And even though you and I really don't talk a lot, we had a great time, I think, at a party that you invited me to. And then I feel like I saw you again at some other party. I don't know. But because I'm on the West Coast, you're on the East Coast, you're
I
super
know.
busy. We don't get the opportunity to connect. But I always want you to know that from a distance, I am always and forever cheering you on. Even though, like I said, we don't really speak often. Everything that you post, I'm gonna like it. And I'm gonna go on, girl, because I think that's important. Because I feel like, again, in this industry, and I'm sure other industries as well, you can feel like you're all by yourself. And I think you're only as strong as the circle that you create around you.
And I'm always like, we have to be more intentional about making sure we hang out. And I know, like, when you're in New York, you will hit me up, so we have to make sure that we connect more. Because honestly, like, even from the moment I first met you, I was like, I really like her.
Yeah, it's because I love tequila. No, but I honestly, I see. I don't know what you want to do. What is your end goal? Like, what's the end goal for you? What would make Angela Yee happy when she's 65 years old and living in a penthouse somewhere? What would you like your resume to say? Doesn't mean that that's the end of it, but what would you like to already be on that list?
Well, I would like to have multiple places where I can go on vacation that I
That
own.
part,
Okay.
yes.
But number two, like, entrepreneurship is really, really important to me, right? But not just having a business for the sake of having a business, but creating successful businesses that create wealth. And so I want to be able to do that for myself, but I also want to help other people do that because I think, and I've learned this just from people who I've come across and, in life is what's important to me is like how people remember me when I'm not here
Mm,
anymore. And I want to make sure that I have like a long lasting impact where people can be like, I ran into her and she told me this, and then it helped me start my business, or Angela helped provide the capital, or she put me in touch with this person who got me a grant, or she helped provide this service. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to impact people in their lives with knowledge and with like really tangible things to help them create wealth.
I think that's amazing. I think that takes a selfless individual to consider, how can I be of service? And I'm always trying to be intentional with my connection of people like that. Because at the end of the day, you're right. You can do a lot of things for people, but all they're going to remember is how you made them feel. I think Oprah said
Mhm.
that best, and it's absolutely true. I can count the number of times that people have done things that made me feel shitty. But I think it is, in my mind anyway, I don't even know the number to put based on people who made me feel a particular way. Like, I've crossed a lot
Right.
of people, and I feel, one of the things that I hate more than anything is that there is this, um, such a negative narrative that Black women, especially, don't get along, and that, we can't be friends because we're always going to. I'm like, if I hear that one more time, I'm just going to stab myself because it is not true. I think it is something that is intentionally said to keep us apart because we are
Yeah.
stronger together. When you look at the
Yeah.
fact that
And
Black
I'll
women
say
are the
that,
most entrepreneurial, we're the most educated, we make up the top demographic in terms of those who are starting their own businesses and being successful. And I think somewhere in the matrix, we found a way to connect, right? Because I'm not going
yeah.
to sit here and lie and act like I haven't ran across some chicks that I thought when I met them in person they'd be super cool and they weren't. I'm not gonna act like
Uh,
that. That has
yeah.
happened.
And that's in
However,
general. I would say there's more people that have been amazing than not. You know,
yes, and we don't talk
there's a couple
about
that
that
does.
enough. But that's why I want to do woman to woman because I was like, we don't talk about it enough, and I want people to see more than just the bickering and whatever narrative that they've created. That we get along, and when we laugh together, we laugh hard and deep, and we love hard and deep. And I ride or die for the chicks that if you were to you're not going to believe this, but I will. I'm not even kidding. If you were to call me, you could be in LA, you could be in New York. And if you were to call me and you hadn't spoken to me and I don't know how long, and you was like, yo, Jazz, like some shit has gone down. I really,
Pull up.
really, really, could you pull up? I'm there. I mean, flip
Yes.
flops and all. I am there. I'm like, what you need? Just let me know what time. Is it a bunch of us, or do I need to come puffed up and make it look like a bunch of us? I got you.
But no,
I
I
am
know.
that
And
kind
you
of
work
chick.
out too. So I already know you got them hands.
You better know it. Don't let the curly hair fool you. Let me tell you something. My biological family are native New Yorkers. So let me tell you, it's a lot of gruff to me that people who cross me wrong be like, yo, I stepped to Jasmine because I thought, and then I found out I was wrong. But it's all love. I really wanted the opportunity to speak with you just about life, to see how you are, to say congratulations, that I'm beyond proud and just excited for what the world has for you. Just in terms of, I watched what you were doing with the juice bar. I watched the whole situation with the coffee, is it uplifts people or something like that, right?
Mhm.
The whole hair thing, and I was like, damn. Then you was in Detroit, you was buying up properties. I was like, I'm going to Detroit. Let me see if I can get some properties. And every time that I've called you, you may not hit me right back, but you always do. And it's always with such an incredibly warm spirit. And I'm really happy for you. I really, truly, to my core, am happy for you.
Well, I'm glad we made this happen. And I do want to say, Jasmine, it's very ironic that Woman to Woman is a song that is not really uplifting, but
I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose. Let me tell you why. Because that is how people always remember it. And I think that is where the one of the narratives about us is that we're always at each other's throats over some dude. Hello, Barbara.
right.
This is Shirley. I'm like, this ain't even that. This is a different kind. Hello, Barbara. I got tequila on the rocks. What's up? You coming up? It's that kind of thing. I wanted to
Let's
create
set
that
him
space. Yes. Girl, record him. But I just wanted to show the world that we love each other, that we respect each other and we cheer each other on, even at moments that we feel like we're all alone. I think it's important to show that. And I think now more than ever, because Black women as a demographic nationally and really worldwide, just women of color, I think we're doing amazing things right now. And so what better time than to come together and show that we are working together to be better. And I think it's a great message to show to the generation that's coming behind us, the generation of amazing women doing amazing things. I watched what happened in Nashville and I saw those young brothers. I was like, go get them, go get them. And so I think these types of things are important. So I think even in the midst of celebrating, things that could be considered superficial that may be here today, gone tomorrow, I think it's important that we show that there is a soul connection, especially amongst women in radio, women just in general. And I feel
Yes.
that commonality with you. I always have. I always have from the moment I met you.
Well, me too.
It's
Well,
true.
good. Tequila on me.
Tequila on you. Okay, so I've recorded that. You understand, right? So you know what this is gonna be when I see
That's
you.
a bet. We're gonna post those pictures and everything.
I know that's right. Girl, thank you so much for taking time out to talk to me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I wish you well. I continue to pray for your success. Way Up with Angela Yee. I hope that eventually there is a TV show coming. I hope there's a book deal coming. I hope that there are more properties that you are going to be purchasing, both for pleasure and for business. I see in your future you being a mentor, going around and speaking and empowering women and providing opportunities. I just see the sky is not the limit. There is no limit for you, Angela. There is no limit.
Well, good. We starting this investment group, so I'm gonna hit you up.
Hit me up. I'm down. I hit you before and I say, yo, let's do some business together. I'm telling you,
Okay,
I'm in it to win it.
good. I'll be hitting you right now.
All right, girl. Cheers. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Have an incredible time. And if you ever need me, just call. Woman to woman.
All right. And same on my part. If you need me, call me too. I'm praying for you as well
Oh, thank you. I
because you got to deal
appreciate
with
that.
DL every
Every
day.
day. Every day, girl. Whoo, you already know. I ain't gonna even get into it. You know that drama. Woman to woman. Hello, Angela. This is Jasmine. All right,
All right, love
girl.
you.
Thank you. Love you, girl. Take care, mama.
Bye.